Hello, everyone, and welcome back to part 10 of orientation. We are now in 003 under module 3 under the core teaching of the week. We just completed the gate of remembrance, and now we're down to the core teaching, which talks about the descent. This is the first act of your script. Now, read this part here. All of this also is available at the bottom of the page as a PDF. Okay. So what I did in mine, I printed it out at 50% and I'm taping it on my page. After I did this, I realized that I really didn't have to do this. I could just wrote the sentences, but I'm just going to tape the sentence, write my response, and then tape the next one and write my response. And here we have the first chunk of the paper. And I'm kind of picking up where I left off yesterday on that same page. I did make a short, but in case you did not see that, I'm working on my binder. I am going to make this picture available so that if you want to print it out and use it for the cover of your binder, you can as well. It's the cover of the book, of the graph paper book. And then if you open it up here, if you recall, these are the ones where you can write on it and then erase. Right now, I just have orientation written at the top. And then next page is a blank checklist in case there's anything that I need to remember or write down. Then we go into the pages that I've done so far. They're all in protective sheets. And then I have one on either side. So we have everything that I did so far in here. And then we go into the next section, which is my templates section, which wrote templates at the top. And then this is the one that has everything where I can come back and refill it in at different points. And I know to check this section to see if there's anything I want to do an update on periodically. And then I just have some blank paper. And then I also have a printout of, I kind of just wanted to see how it looked when it was all printed out. So I printed out the entire guidebook for the tarot sheets for in here. So this is what it looks like, printed out 4 per page. And then I just have a bunch of extra material here. And then I also printed out all of the sheets. So like the partner safety sheet, the individualized safety plan, all of that I printed out as well. And then I just in the back have some extra copies ready to go of the checklist, which obviously you don't need to do because it's just dots on a paper. But to show you everything, I'm trying to actually have everything printed out. So that is the binder so far. And again, this is not my binder. I just got it at Staples. So, all right. We're going to listen to this audio down here, which I recommend listening to before doing the rest of the page. So ideally, you would come in here, read this little blurt, prepare yourself for what you're about to take in, scroll all the way to the bottom down here, and then we're going to listen to this MP3. Orientation Week is about dismantling one of the greatest illusions that you have ever believed. The idea that your life is random. It is not. It has never been. Every chapter, every heartbreak, every collapse was part of a precise and intentional design. Your soul wrote an intricate script long before you took your first breath. And the descent is the opening act of that design. Most of the world spends its energy trying to ascend. People chase light, clarity, purpose, and transcendence, believing that up is the only direction worth moving. But the blueprint begins differently. It begins by asking you to descend. It invites you into the cracks and into the chaos, into the places you promised yourself you would never revisit. because only in the descent can you find the origin point of your story. The descent is not punishment. It is precision. It is the soul's way of planting signposts in the dark. Signposts that will lead you home. Every major wound you have lived, every abandonment, betrayal, loss, and rejection was chosen as a teacher. These experiences are not proof that the universe has forgot you. They are the scaffolding upon which your soul builds memory, meaning, and mastery. They shape the inner labyrinth that you're here to walk. Not so you can escape it, but so that you can understand it. The descent often begins before you even know it has started. It begins in childhood, when you absorb the unspoken rules of the world around you. It deepens in adolescence, when betrayal teaches you the cost and the power of trust. It sharpens in adulthood, when heartbreak forces you to question who you truly are. The descent is the invisible curriculum of becoming human. It is also the birthplace of the subconscious. Every moment that overwhelms your nervous system, every truth you were not yet ready to face, is stored in what the Blueprint calls buckets. These buckets fill quietly over time, and together they become the voice that narrates your reality. This voice tells you who you are, what is safe, and what is possible. But it is rarely telling the truth. It is simply replaying unexamined memory. This is why descent work matters. Until you are willing to descend and face the original script, your life will continue to be narrated by the outdated versions of you. A child, a wound, a frozen moment in time. No matter how much you change the surface of your life, that voice will keep pulling you into the same loops, the same patterns, the same lessons, until you turn toward it and listen. Descent work is not about self-blame. It's about self-revelation. It is not about reliving pain, it's about reclaiming authorship. And here's the paradox. The descent feels like falling, but it is actually the foundation. Every time your life has collapsed, something sacred has been revealed. Every time you have felt lost, you were standing on the threshold of a deeper knowing. The descent strips away illusion so that you can meet what has always been beneath it, your original design. This journey will teach you how to read that design. You'll learn how to decode your life as a map, to trace the threads of memory and meaning that led you from wound to wisdom. And when you do, you'll begin to see the hidden script beneath every event. You will see that nothing was wasted, that the things you once called random were constellations forming a pattern only visible from the higher vantage point of your soul. The first step is to stop running from the descent. Stop calling it failure. Stop considering it punishment. Call it what it is: the curriculum of awakening. This week, you're not here to fix anything. You are here to see, to become the observer of your story, to trace the architecture of the labyrinth beneath your feet. to begin decoding the language your soul has been speaking all along. And as you do, the narrative will shift. The villain may reveal itself as a teacher. The loss may reveal itself as liberation. The silence may reveal itself as sacred space. This is the alchemy of descent. Not erasing what happened, but extracting the blueprint within it. What I once called darkness is the soil where my soul planted the truth. Okay. So I really didn't write a lot during that. Mainly just took it in. I have the collapse reveals more of what is real with an arrow to nothing was ever wasted. And then I have just C with a star, and I'm noticing the star and this star, and they're both catty corners. So I do feel like just C is going to connect in a big way to which mirror are you yeah, which mirror are you scared of finally facing? Just C feels to me to be encouragement coming through of you might be afraid to face it, but you're ready to. So now we're going to go into this worksheet down here. One second. Okay, so we're going to go into the orientation worksheet, the descent, the first act of the script. Again, I printed mine out. You do not have to. So use this worksheet as your guide into the first act of your soul's script. It will help you shift from seeing your story as random to understanding it as intentional design. Everything has a purpose. It all fits together and allows you to see a confirmation of the purpose. Each reflection is an invitation to look deeper, listen closer, and reclaim authorship of your journey. So number 1, the descent in my story. The descent is the soul's way of leading me home through the experiences that once felt like they broke me. It's not punishment, it is precision. Describe a season of your life that felt like a descent. What happened? I wrote, when I stopped working at the gym and lost basically everything due to stepping into showing my gifts prior to fully understanding them yet. Kind of mentioned a little bit before, but this whole concept of the blueprint, I got it all at once. It's like I came into the understanding of it all at once, and I came into the also simultaneous understanding that I was meant to share it and teach it Little did I know that that didn't mean that moment. It meant a full decade later. Um, didn't know that back then. It was not received well. Number 2. Okay, so I have my scissors. What did that season teach you about yourself or the world? What did that season teach you about yourself or the world? What did that season teach you about yourself or the world? I put that when people don't understand you, their immediate reaction will be to villainize you if they are not yet to fully know themselves. I honestly thought that by a certain point in my journey that perspective would change, and I thought that I would come to realize that I was getting it wrong, but I do still feel that way. I feel like when someone sees another individual trying to better know themselves, when they are yet to do that type of work, even if they don't agree with where the other person's coming from, the villainization comes from how dare you try to question what we're told about who we are. So I feel like that season of my life really taught me that. It also taught me a lot of things about myself. It taught me to slow down. It taught me to dig deeper. It taught me to ask better questions. It taught me to seek more thorough answers. And it taught me to keep plans close to the chest until they're ready to be revealed. We'll leave it at that. Question 3. How might that experience have been a signpost pointing you back toward truth? And again, you can do your codex any way you would like. I just really like the seeming randomness of this because it allows for a different layer and level of putting together the story. Like if I were to just write this regular versus I wrote it this way, so this connects to this different. This is catty corner with that different. That's why I like to set it up this way. You do not have to do that. You can do it much more organized and, aligned, like lined up if you would like. How might that experience have been a signpost pointing you toward truth? How might this experience have been a signpost pointing you back toward truth? I wrote the quote, "If you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything." And truth is still truth, even if people don't want to believe it. Truth is still truth. Even if you can't explain it in the way people feel like they need to hear it to understand it. If you stay in alignment with truth, you don't need to prove it. It will prove itself because it is the truth. And truth doesn't have to perform. Truth doesn't have to strategize or hold up a mask or do things in the dark. Truth waits patiently for the light to shine on it, knowing that it is the truth and it will be revealed when the light is shown on it. All right, next one. The buckets and the subconscious. The subconscious is built in the descent. Every overwhelming moment becomes a bucket that stores unprocessed memory and shapes how you see yourself and the world. List 3 experiences that still hold emotional weight for you. There was an instance, a hospital instance that I'm not going to go into further, but that is definitely the top one. Disregard by people that I held in high regard. Trauma by something that has now become a legal issue between me and a prior dentist. So trauma at my worst place to be, my trauma center, which is the dentist. And lack of acknowledgement actually when something very good happened and someone that was expected to act differently did not. So I think that those 3 things right now are, they hold emotional weight because they showed me what I'm capable of handling without support or approval from others. And I feel like they hold emotional weight in a positive way now, although they were some of the most negative experiences of my life. I feel like they hold positive weight now because I know that I will never have to experience that kind of emotion again due to understanding people at a level now in which I could see the warning signs before it got to that point. So I can appreciate what the pain taught me, even though the pain is still at times raw. Disappointment for me is a big one. When I feel the emotion of disappointment, that's one that is tough because sometimes it will swing towards sadness and sometimes it will swing towards anger, which makes sometimes it trigger guilt and sometimes trigger like, well, that's just not fair. So I feel like that's a tricky one for me to navigate. Something that I'm working on. So for each, write a message that bucket might still be sending you. I got nothing nice to say about this one. Those who mistreat you show you how to stand your ground. For the first one, I don't know if I said it. I wrote the harder the fall, the greater the rise. And those who mistreat you show you how to stand your ground. And number 3. Number 3, I wrote, who cares how they feel about you when they don't even like themselves? Next question. How does that message shape your choices or beliefs today? Number 1, I wrote, nothing is broken unless you quit on your mind. Number 2, I wrote, when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. And number 3. Oh, wait, that was number 3. Number 2. And for number 3, which is really number 2, which is the dentist, I wrote, able to maintain control in panicked situations. Next part. Working with the descent. Probably I'm not going to do it like this again because I don't love that, but I didn't love this whole section, so that's okay. You know? All right. Facing the original script. Once you descend and face the original script, your life will continue to be narrated by outdated versions of you. This exercise helps you shift from character to author. What story about yourself might still be coming from an earlier version of you? Yeah, I think that's it. That failure is inevitable. That's one that I've always struggled with, is stopping myself before seeing something all the way through, or by not completing the final lap of seeing something through because I keep thinking there's more, there's more, there's more. I did that with this course. So that's a big one for me. How does it feel to question whether that story is true now? Like I always knew success was inevitable. I just stopped trying to convince others and waste my energy. Usually when you're being tested with some kind of limitation projected on you from another individual or group of individuals, it's because that's the very thing that deep down you don't question. If you are being pushed to shrink your light, being told it's too bright, that brightness is the actual key to your evolution, because that brightness is something that you're not going to be able to ignore permanently. It's ingrained in you. It is you. So when you have something like that, that just feels like It's the thing you don't need proof, but even without the proof, you don't question it in the same way that you question other things. That was the blueprint for me. I never questioned it. I tried to prove it in a way that wasn't going to work, but I never questioned it. I just kept circling it until I understood how to really mold it in a way that I was trying to mold it in, to be teachable, right? So, how does it feel to question whether that story is true now? This original origin story, there's a part of the truth here that you always knew to be true, but you had to be met with resistance so that that truth could be tested, and you would know that even when tested, I still hold this true. It's important. What new story would you write from the perspective of your higher self? If God brings you to it, he will bring you through it. Period. And he will make sure you have the tools, the training, the perspective, the support. It's not going to happen immediately. It's not going to happen overnight. You're going to have to do the work, but you're going to have it somehow, some way. Because God wants to prove that spark in there. He wants to say, yeah, I put that there. Go ahead, test it. I want you to. I'll prove it to you. Okay. Next page. So, in your original script, in this story that you're putting together now, there's a version of you that knew the truth, and then that truth was tested. And now you're coming full circle to realize that the truth you knew to be true was true, but now you have evidence because it's been tested in the field of reality, and you still hold it true. Okay. Did I do this? No. This is extracting the blueprint. Every descent holds a hidden seed of wisdom. Your task is not to erase what happened, but to extract what it planted in you. Choose one wound from your past and write about it first as the version of you who lived it. One wound from your past and write about it first as the first version of you who lived it. I think I'm going to type this. Hold on. Okay. Choose one wound from your past and write about it first as the version of you who lived. I wrote, betrayal is when you realize that all of the time you spent trying to prove your worth was in vain because the second you stop being useful or enabling to people and their decisions, they will turn on you. But there is freedom in this because only in being forced to depend only on yourself do you see the true power in disconnecting completely from the opinions and or approval of others or what they think you should be doing. I'm just going to type the rest of these too. Now rewrite the same event as the author who designed it as part of your growth. I put, you will face your greatest shadow, abandonment, but it will be through everyone else abandoning you when you needed them the most and being forced to finally stop abandoning yourself to try and keep others. It's a spicy one. What wisdom or strength do you see now that was hidden before? What wisdom or strength do you see now that was hidden before? Accepting an apology you are owed but not given from others is a good way to forgive yourself. This seems wrong, but I have found that this form of accepting an apology can look a lot more like not continuing to rethink and replay past memories, trusting they served their purpose and are now behind you, versus trying to go back to these memories to understand or unpack them further when you just aren't meant to understand why certain people do what they have chosen to do simply because you would never act that way. What do I mean by this? I feel like the wisdom and strength from these experiences, sometimes your apology to yourself is saying, you know what, I've wasted enough time thinking about this. And it's not wasted time. You probably needed to think about it for that long in order to heal, in order to gain the right perspective. But when you're aware that something that you're ruminating on is only draining you and it's not helping make any progress, sometimes that, what I have come to view as self-forgiveness, is saying, you know what, you were doing the best to protect me by trying to understand this, but maybe we're not supposed to understand it, at least not right now. So if we've spent this much time thinking of something and not making progress, maybe it's time to just replace those thoughts with something that can produce progress and see if that ever comes back up or if it's just meant to stay in the past. So I've come to realize that an act of self-forgiveness is realizing I've spent enough time thinking about this, and my way of forgiving myself isn't by trying to make some grand change or pay myself back for time lost. Sometimes it's saying, you know what, I'm dropping this right now and I'm starting fresh right now. And that's the apology that I owe to myself. I'm not wasting time trying to focus on it from a different perspective. I'm simply switching focus altogether. So my form of apology to myself is, if I realize something's a problem, I correct it right away. That way I don't need to later then apologize to myself. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so reframing the descent. Rewrite one story from your life using these reframes: failure into foundation, chaos into curriculum, darkness into soil, wound into doorway, villain into teacher, or another reframe story of your choice, and then it gives you a space to write it. My reframe story is in regards to chaos and curriculum. I said the blueprint actually started out as what I would call clear chaos. It was concise and fluid, but so dense and vast. It was like seeing a giant puzzle put together and then watching it break apart and fall on the floor right in front of my eyes. Then I got the message that my goal was to teach it. So I started teaching what I remembered about what I saw from the puzzle's image, not realizing I actually had to reconstruct the entire puzzle piece by piece before I was ready to truly present it as curriculum. Yeah. And then the last one is the closing reflection. What I once called darkness is the soil where my soul planted the truth. Write what this sentence means to you now. Okay, might cry for this one. What I once called darkness is the soil where my soul planted the truth. Write what this sentence means to you now. God gives us a seed which holds inside of it a spark of himself, a spark of divine truth. Most people get stuck thinking that they failed or that God gave up on them because they failed to see that it is up to them, not God, to then water that seed and nurture it until it's ready to bloom. At the end of the day, if you have a belief that your soul won't let you ignore, keep digging, keep watering it, and keep trusting that in due time, God will show you why he placed it there in the first place. Yeah. Day two of crying. All right. See you for part 2 of orientation. I'm going to print this out and just put it straight in the codex. The longer answers I'll be typing out and just kind of putting into the binder. So see you for the next part.